Welcome to the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I am your host, Jackson Rudolph, and this is episode 14, a conversation with Team Paul Mitchell members and world champions Danny Etkin and Aidan Considine. Welcome to the show, guys. We're honored to have you. I'll let you guys tell a little bit about yourselves first. We'll start with Danny.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Danny Etkin. I'm a member of Team Paul Mitchell, world champion. I've been competing since 2008 on the NASCA circuit, and I'm excited to be spreading my truth to you guys today.
And Aidan.
What's up, everybody? Aidan Considine, also member of Team Paul Mitchell and world champion, and I'm just super excited to be here today with you, with two of my closest friends doing this podcast right now.
Awesome. And one thing you guys will notice, as Danny said, there's going to be a lot of truth being spread here
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
And the synergy between these two is absolutely hysterical. So we are bound to have some moments where we have a little bit of laughter, and I hope you guys laugh along here with us.
This might be the best podcast you ever listened to.
It could be the best episode that has ever been created.
Could be the best, could be the worst.
Could be the worst. You guys have to top Ross Levine, though. That interview was pretty dope.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. So anyway, one of the first things, I was talking to Aidan before the show, and one of the first things that Aidan wanted to talk about is actually kind of a continuation of my conversation from last week. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast yet, I talked a little bit about a day in my life and how I balance life with school, being in a research lab, studying for MCAT medical exams, preparing for med school, as well as being a professional martial artist and teaching and training and all that stuff. And so Aidan and Danny are both in kind of different situations. So I'm a senior in college. Danny's in his sophomore year now at USC. Aidan, you're a senior in high school that's working on the application process for college and everything. So we'll start with Aidan on this one. How do you guys personally balance all the different things that you got to juggle in everyday life?
Well, I try to train a little bit every day, even if it's not like full forms or something like that. I have to do something every day, whether it's like stances or just like working on my hands, stuff like that. Try to do that every single day, but I try to do that right after school so I have time to do all my homework and stuff like that, because I am in high school. I'm a senior. Even though senior year is probably like one of the easier years I've had so far, you still have a lot of stuff going on, and the application process for college over the past 3-4 months that I've been applying to schools, I've applied to like 9-10 schools, and I'm still hearing back from them and stuff like that. So that whole process is just nerve-wracking, because it's, where you're going for the next 4 years of your life, and that's your continuation for your education and stuff like that. So it's just nervous, but also you gotta do both of them. If you want to do both, you have to do martial arts and do good in school. So I'm doing pretty solid right now. I'm in the honor society for my school, and I have like a 95 GPA. So that definitely helps for the college application process and stuff like that. But yeah, it's still a lot of stuff going on.
That's awesome. So I know that a lot of our listeners, right, like a lot of the sport karate community in general, a lot of the competitors, the biggest divisions tend to be like that 14, 15, 16, 17 going into high school and kind of having that high school experience. So as somebody that's coming to the tail end of that and going through the application process, what type of advice would you have? Like, how have you coped with it? Because you even said like how nerve-wracking it can be hearing back from schools and everything. What were some of the things that you focused on in your application to try to help you? And what's just general advice that you have for anybody in that phase?
Well, anybody who goes to school and competes on NASCA or competes doing martial arts at the high level that we do, give yourself all the props in the world, and when you write that essay, brag about yourself so much. Like that's a huge part. Like, we as martial artists really don't like to brag about ourselves. Like,
we're taught to be humble.
We're taught to be humble. Like, people always say, "Oh yeah, you should talk about yourself more. Like, you do all this stuff. You travel around the world." But it's like, it's really not like that. Like, we go to these tournaments, we compete, and then we go home pretty much. Like, we don't really get to, it's not vacations and stuff like that. But, I mean, if you are writing that essay, brag about yourself to the fullest, because you should. Every college that you're applying to should know what you're doing, and if you have good grades, plus you can travel around the world and keep a good, education, then that's all props to you.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. And then, Danny, you're somebody that's in the heat of college right now. You're right in the middle of it, studying business, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of take us through that, a day in your life. How do you balance all that, kind of being at a different stage than Aidan and myself?
Yeah, for sure. So when I got to college, it was definitely a hard transition with my training because I was used to having the key to my dojo back at home, and I would just go after classes like pretty much every night if I had a big tournament coming up, or at least like 5 times a week. I'd say I'd go after classes were done. I had the key. I'd train for maybe an hour or two, maybe more, depending on the day, and that was my routine. But when I got to college, we don't have a gym there, or the nearest open gyms, like I got a carpool. It's like a whole big hassle now to do the things that I took for granted before. So I'll be honest, first semester my training went down a lot actually, but what I realized is when's this gonna stop? I gotta stay consistent if I want to achieve my goals. So what I do now is very similar to what Aidan said. Keep it consistent. You don't have to go into it thinking that you're gonna train 3 hours or whatever a day. Because you don't exactly, like some days, if you can do that, sure, that's awesome. But I think a really big, a really good useful tip, if you're trying to stay consistent, is actually lower your standards a little bit. Like when you show up, that's a win. Just show up to practice, and if you keep doing that over and over again, sometimes you'll have longer sessions, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But what I do is actually I train every single morning before I start my classes. So I start class at like 10 a.m. I wake up about 8, and then I train for a little bit. And that's just what I've been doing, is stay consistent. My sessions aren't as long as they were, I would say, back when I was in high school, but my consistency is like super good. Like I just train. It's part of my morning routine. So that's my advice. That's what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff, too. The big takeaway there being the consistency and just making sure, hey, if you show up, that's a win for that day. Because if you show up every day, you're bound to get better because, who knows how much time you'll have. And I think the other end of that is what you said about being in high school when you had that time. So, like, these kids that are listening that are in high school right now, taking advantage of the unique opportunity they have to go through that growth.
I want to add on to that real quick. 'Cause at my karate school, I've had the key for the past, 5 years or so, and I've the luckiest guy. Like I get to go to the school anytime I want, and now going to college and not being able to go to the school whenever the time I want for every single day of the week, and I have a place to train. That's like crazy to think about. But if you have that opportunity right now, you have the chance to go to the school and whenever you want, practice as long as you want, forever. Take advantage of that all you want.
If you have that opportunity, this is your time to go beast mode.
Absolutely.
This is when you want to be getting over, that hurdle, getting you to that top level that you can get to, because once you get into these situations where it gets a little bit harder to find time, it's going to be hard to make the same amount of progress that you could when you have these facilities on the tip of your fingers. And all it takes is not that long, but a little bit of time, and just go hard, and you'll it's a curve, right? There's like a learning curve to it, and once you kind of get over that little hump, you'll be in a pretty good position, and then you just want to maintain and get better and better. But if you have the opportunity to go to a gym every single day or something like that, use that advantage right now while you have it, because it won't last forever.
Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of listeners might be thinking you guys get a key to your karate school, that's so lucky. Like I was somebody, there's a lot of people that go to martial arts schools that don't support their competition as much, right? They're doing a traditional program and they happen to get exposed to sport karate, and so they need to be able to train on their own. So like me personally, I had a key to a facility, but it was my church. Like my church allowed me to come in and use the space. So absolutely, if you have an instructor that's supportive, it's absolutely okay to go and have your parents have a conversation with them and say, hey, our kid is really serious about wanting to be great at this. In order to do that, they've got to be putting in more time. Could we have a key to the school to come in after hours and put that work in? And if you don't have a relationship with your instructor where that's possible, one thing that I'm seeing become really popular in a lot of my students is having home dojos in the garage, something like that. Or if you have some other facility, right? Like if you're part of a church, or you maybe your sister takes gymnastics classes or whatever, something like that, and maybe that gymnastics studio would let you come in after hours. Just kind of explore those options, because you really do need access to somewhere, whether it's an at-home dojo or you get access somewhere else. I mean, you just need that to have the spacing, And
it doesn't need to be much. Right now, I honestly train on my rooftop parking lot in my shoes, no mats, no nothing. I just go super raw, and I just train in my shoes. Just that's probably some of the worst facility that you could ever have, honestly.
For real, yeah.
It sucks.
That's dope, though.
It's sick. It's a cool view, but like,
That's not the ideal training
it's
spot.
not the ideal training spot, but actually that pumps me up. Just the fact, like, in my head, I'm thinking, who the heck would do this, Like, who would do that? Except for, a few people. And that pumps me up, and I train hard. So most of my training is on my rooftop parking lot, and then there's, like, a field, like, that I can, like, skateboard to. Sometimes I go there if I want to trick in the morning, so those are my 2 spots.
So kind of going off of that, just going off script here a little bit. So like for me, like training in the church, I would often be training like late at night, and I trained like in the foyers. There were like these big glass doors that anybody like passing through would be able to see in and see that somebody's in there and like see what they're doing, right? And so I actually have some pretty funny stories of like weird stuff that would happen when people would see me train. Do you guys have any stories from like training in public or doing karate in public where like somebody's like approached you with something weird or whatever?
Yeah, I was doing tricks one time on this field, and like my school's Instagram posted a video of me like saying like ninja or something, like USC ninja or something like that. So that's kind of weird. And then obviously in my parking lot, like the rooftop, there's like the littlest amount of cars, but every once in a while, people gotta get out of the parking lot, and like there's still some cars up there, so it's kind of like weird. But then, you gotta decide, like, what do you care about more? Like, other people seeing what you do or, getting better. And for me, it's like, I don't care, honestly, if anybody, sees me do something that maybe they're not used to. I'm on my path, and that's way more important to me, so.
Yeah. I guess for me, it was always, like, homeless people. Right. Like, we'd be in the church, and then, like, because I would train with my dad till, like, 10 or 11 o'clock at night most nights. And so, like, you'd get homeless people to, like, come by the church, like, trying to get handouts and stuff. But it was interesting, like, the different attitudes. Like, some of them would, like, come up to the door and, like, just kind of, like, awkwardly stare, right? And then others would, like, kind of get happy about it, like, cheer for me a little bit. That was always pretty cool. But anyway, now I know, Aidan, you say you always been training in the school, so you probably don't have as much of that.
I don't have, like, funny stories about it, but I have, like, a really cool story, actually, because I, like you, had only, like, a certain amount of time to train at night, because there's class at the karate school from, like, 3 o'clock till 8 o'clock or something like that, so my time to train is from 8 o'clock to whenever I want, pretty much. And there's a Japanese restaurant right next to Bustos, which is my karate school, and one day there's I don't know if you call him custodian or something like that, whatever it was, but he was taking out the trash to the back, and he saw me in the window, like, doing this stuff, and he was like knocking on the door, like, asking me, like, what is this? What are you doing? And then I told him what it was. I told him that it's called sport karate, and we teach this here. I have a class that I teach this personally. He goes, oh, okay, I'll bring my daughters then. And he brought all 3 of his daughters to class the next day, and they started teaching, and they still go to karate classes now. So I thought that was cool that I at least, like, could inspire somebody to come here. Like, they had no clue what was going on, and they're like, you know what? Let me try it out right now. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always great we can bring somebody into what we're so passionate about.
Absolutely.
Like, anytime you can get a new life in the martial arts, that's just the best feeling in the world.
For sure.
So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. And, one of the really interesting things to see right now and over the past decade really is this new movement of former competitors or even current competitors taking their students and starting to form teams out of those students. And oftentimes they turn out to be pretty good. Like, I remember before I was on Paul Mitchell, I was on a team called Change the Game, which was coached by Lauren Carney, was myself, Kyle Montagna, Michaela Johnson.
Kid and Lauren.
Yeah. And we had a dope squad. Like, it was so much fun competing alongside those guys. Even right now, like myself, Reed, and Cole, Mackenzie helps us out. We've got Team Competitive Edge, and we've got a squad, and we're really proud of them and how much they've developed. You guys were on, arguably, statistically, one of the best of those teams to ever exist, which was Team Emig, coached by, of course, Matt Emig. So tell us a little bit, and you guys can kind of go back and forth on this one. Give us the origin story. How did that get started? And just tell us, like, about your experience being on that team, which, by the way, is so special because it's the only team where every single member of the team moved on to represent Paul Mitchell. The core of that team was Aidan, Danny, Mackenzie, Emery, and Tyler Weaver. All 4 of them went on to compete for Paul Mitchell, which is just so sick.
Was on Paul Mitchell.
Well, Matt was on Paul Mitchell, right?
We had a whole squad of Paul Mitchell.
Whole squad of Paul Mitchell guys, or future Paul Mitchell guys. So go ahead and just shoot some ideas and stories about that experience and how it all got started.
Well, he started the team in 2013, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe 2013, and at that point, 2012, I was competing for Pro Rank, which was their last year of competition.
Another dope team, by the way.
Another dope team.
If you guys
Team
don't know
Pro
Pro Rank, you gotta know Pro Rank.
Marcelo Jones, Calvin Choka, Mackenzie Emery was also on that team. Sammy Smith, Tyler Weaver, whole squad on that team too.
Dope logo too.
Dope logo too. Correct. So I represented them for half of 2012 and all of 2011, and then the end of 2012, I was on Team AKA, and Matt called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna start a team. I'm gonna call it Team Emig. What do you want to be on my team?" I'm like, "Wow, that's insane. This guy's making a team now." He's like, "Who's gonna be on the team?" Danny, Mackenzie, and Tyler. A 4-person team, probably like one of the dopest teams you could have. A 4-man squad, so I unfortunately left Team Emig, but not Team Emig, sorry, Team AKA, and then joined Team Emig, and that was just so cool because the whole year was one of the best stats we could probably ever have for that kind of team. 4-person team putting up those kind of numbers where we had 2 people winning every tournament.
Because everybody was in a different division.
Everybody was in a different division.
Yeah.
I was in 1300, you in 14-17, Mackenzie was in the women's adults, and Tyler was in the men's adults.
Yeah.
Like, that was just...
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
Sorry. There was like 16-17, but then...
You had Mackenzie, who was the 14-17 girls.
Yes.
You had Tyler 14-17 boys.
Yeah.
Danny, that was kind of your transition time where you moved up from 1300 14-17.
Yep.
But I get what you're saying. Like that diversity is key to having
Absolutely.
such a small squad that can put up so much numbers.
Yeah.
Anyway, Danny, go ahead.
Yeah. At the end of, or the middle of 2012, what Team 100%, which was the team that I was on before, they stopped.
Another dope team.
Yeah, another super dope team. We ended after U.S. Open. We decided we wanted to end with a bang. We didn't want to just fizzle out as a team, so we all went super hard at U.S. Open, and then that was it though. So me and Mackenzie were on Team 100% at the time, and then for the rest of the year we had we were on no team. We just had a blank uniform pretty much. And
by the way, you guys were still winning.
We were
with a
still
blank uniform.
Yeah, we were still
There's
winning.
a lot of people that think that you need a logo on your back to be able to win.
No,
So that kind of proves that
You
it
do
takes
not.
talent, not the logo.
Absolutely.
Keep
For
going.
sure.
Though. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
So we were both training with Matt at that point, and I feel like our parents must have been bugging Matt to make a team or something. They must have.
That was a big one because
Yeah,
you guys
so-
had no team. And
Yeah, I definitely feel like my mom was like, Matt, start a team.
That was his last year competing also, 2012.
Yeah. So, and then me and Kenzie, at that time, we wanted to get on Paul Mitchell. That was our goal together. We were like, okay, we're just gonna try to leave 100% and get on Paul Mitchell together. That's gonna be our goal. And but we were both training with Matt at the time, and then nothing happened yet with Paul Mitchell or anything. There was a lot of talk going around or whatever, but nothing ended up happening. And then at that point, Matt just gave us a call and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about making this team. Do you want to be a part of it?" And of course, I'm gonna say yeah. Matt taught me literally everything I know, pretty much about extreme martial arts. He got me into the whole thing, or at least competing at a decent level. And so yeah, of course I had to say yeah to that. And then it was a 6 squad: me, Kenzie, Aidan, Tyler, just super powerhouse of a team. So I had to say yeah to that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. 2013 we started.
2013 we started, and then the beginning of 2014 I got hurt, and Mackenzie and Tyler were asked to go into Paul Mitchell 2014. So Danny was the only person.
It was a one-man army for a year.
One-man army for all of 2014.
But the sickest thing ever, though, was Matt came back at U.S. Open competing on Team Emig to do a sync nunchuck form with me. So
unfortunately,
you know what?
we lost, but that was
unfortunately,
a great
I think we got
got
third place or something. But hey, that was the first place in my heart because I was
sure.
super sick.
Competed with Matt. Dude.
Competed with Matt
sync
Emig
nunchuck forms. Come on.
on the same team. So that was sick.
And
Yeah.
2015, I come back, and me and Danny, the 2-man squad, and we had probably one of the best years.
I think we had arguably person per person, like the best stats.
Yeah,
on
we were
NASCAR.
winning like double grands or every single tournament.
Yeah, double or triple each.
Yeah. Oh, we had sync too.
Because we were doing
Absolutely.
sync, so we at least won like 2 grands a tournament each.
Yep.
So yeah, that was really cool. And then the year later, I got asked 2015 at the end of the year.
Yep.
So to get on Paul Mitchell, and that we got asked. Me and Aidan got asked at the same time.
Me, you, Jake, and Reed Presley.
Yeah, that was a big pickup to get those 4 at the same time.
Big
Jake and
day.
Reed plus the 2 of you.
Was a
That
big
was an
day.
awesome pickup for Paul Mitchell. And it's cool listening to you guys tell that story about Team Emig because it's kind of crazy how much it parallels like the story of Change the Game. Because like I remember there was a year before Emig ever existed because I went to Paul Mitchell in 2012. Emig started in 2013. And so Change the Game had their big season in 2011. I think as far as overall grands go, I won like 10 out of 12 overalls that season. That was also the season that Michaela Johnson was tearing it up, kind of cementing herself as one of the top 2 or 3 women's comma competitors to ever compete with the tricks that she was doing. The difficulty level was wild. Who else? Oh, Kyle. Kyle was killing it the traditional divisions that season in 14 and 17. He was getting all kinds of wins in the traditional divisions, just overpowering people. And Connor Griffith, who I don't think gets enough respect sometimes
That's true.
for the difficulty of his bow forms. He made stage at U.S. Open that year, went head-to-head with
Killed it.
Michaela. Michaela wound up winning the U.S. Open, but Connor represented. So, yeah, that was just a dope squad. And it's so cool when you've got such a tight core and you create that little bit of family and you guys do well together. Like, I still remember you were talking about 100%. I remember when Ken Warner, after like every tournament, he would post like the stats from the tournament and he would like update people through the season, like which teams had the most overall wins. And it was so sick. Like the year that Changed the Game was so good. Like there was a time when like me and Michaela alone had like the most overalls on the circuit, and you guys had that same experience a couple years later with Emig. It's so cool to be able to say that you were a part of that, and the fact that now we're all together
Yeah,
on Paul Mitchell
for sure.
is just the coolest thing in the world.
But Team Emig was literally such a family. Like we were all like, at that time we were so close. Like, and we did so many things together. We had like fundraisers together. We like traveled together. We always hung out at tournaments together. We even went to like Cayman Islands, Puerto Rico together as Team Emig.
Yep.
And like, we were already friends before that. Like me and Aidan have been training together forever. Me and Kenzie have been super close. Tyler too. And it was so cool, like, just to be able to have that really, really tight-knit group of people on the same team and, having these cool experiences, martial arts, and just cool life experiences together.
And now every single one of us is on Paul Mitchell together.
Facts.
That's awesome.
That's just crazy.
And so now we're gonna switch gears again here, and now we're gonna go to something Danny and we were talking about before we started the show here. And you said you wanted to talk a bit about mindset changes through the years, going through different teams. When you were on 100%, you guys had the dope team demo, then going to Emig, which you've already mentioned how cool of an experience that was, getting on Paul Mitchell, moving up into the adult division, dealing with an injury early in your adult career, having to come back. Just you've had so many not ups and downs because you've always been good. You've always shown up and competed, so there really aren't many downs. But just so many differences throughout the years. So just tell a little bit, and then Aidan, you can follow him up on this. How has your mindset changed through your years of competition? Why do you compete? That type of thing.
For sure. And just to go back on what you said about the ups and downs, we still have ups and downs. Obviously, you might think that, we win like everything or whatever because you see us all the time. You see us on videos or on stage a lot. But we sure have our ups and downs too. We have bad tournaments. We mess up sometimes. And, and one thing that I actually kind of tying it back to mindset is remembering that. And one of the best pieces of advice ever that was given to me and my mom was actually by Ryan Wells' dad. Ryan Wells was like a really good competitor back in the day on Paul Mitchell. And his dad gave me and my mom like the best advice. And he said that if you look at this division by division, tournament by tournament, you're going to be so upset. Like there's going to be so much pain. You have to look at the bigger picture. And that's just always stuck with me. And he probably told me that when I was like 9 or something like that over a decade ago. And what I realized is like people don't remember. If you mess up at a tournament, I can't even say the last time that like any of my competitors dropped. I have no idea. I'm not paying attention. I don't even know, a a lot of my own stats about like when I've messed up or when I've done good, it all becomes like a big blur at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's about the big picture, how are you doing in the macro scale of things? And, I think that piece of advice really stuck with me, and that's just a great way to look at it, because then there's a lot less of these internal ups and downs and getting so frustrated after these tournaments because, you realize one tournament is not going to make or break you. So that's a big one. But kind of going back to like how it's changed over the years, for me, martial arts and sport martial arts or any competition, I kind of treat it as a vehicle of self-transformation. And I know maybe to you that sounds like kind of cheesy, like because you just like want to win or something. And of course we have that too. That should definitely be. You should definitely have that fire, to win, to compete, to dominate, and that's all good. But there should also be some type of inner evolution, I believe, and especially how you go about it. And for me, it's kind of just like this process of peeling off the layers. So when you start competing, all you want to do is win, right? That makes sense. You want to see if you can do it. You want to prove something to yourself, to your family. Maybe people doubted you or something like that. You want to prove yourself to the world, and then you train hard, and then you do, right? You prove it, and then you're like, okay, now what? Who am I trying to prove to now? And then for me, what it kind of came down to was like, I'm gonna start trying to, prove to maybe the top people, maybe my coach, maybe people that I look up to. I want to be in the conversation as the same conversation as some of the legends out there. And then you kind of do that, and then you keep going and going and going. And, kind of what I'm at now is at this point where I just want to do pretty much two things. I want to keep progressing for myself, like only, and I want to make an impact. And those are really the two things for me, because like I said, one tournament, a win or a loss, what's that even for if you're not inspiring somebody, right? Sure. Like, and that's actually really empowering, I think, because that means that even if you're not a top competitor, you can make such a big impact on people by, being that light in the room, by spreading positivity, by cheering people on, and just like being a good guy, or a girl. And like that is what changes people's lives. And if you are fortunate enough to have the skills and the drive and the platform to win and dominate, that's awesome, because now, people are looking at you and you can be a role model. But, if you're just going to go out there and all you care about is like getting a trophy, what's that really doing for you, and what's that doing for other people? So, that's kind of how I think of it now. And then one other thing is trying to detach from external results, and that's one that I've really been focusing a lot now, and it's pretty hard, honestly, if you haven't really tried to do this before. But having the intent to win and to dominate while being detached from the results and still being able to go train hard after, I think that is like, if you can learn how to figure that out, man, you're set up for success in life. Because if you can win and then still show up on Monday and train hard, you're going to get so good. Because for me, the biggest way that I'm going to start falling behind is actually success. If I do really good at a tournament and then I'm feeling myself for a little bit, and then stop. Then it's so much easier to stop. And the same thing before, or on the other side, if you lose and you just get so down on yourself and like your whole night's ruined, it's like, man, what are you so upset for? It's like, it's just some random judges didn't give it to you that day, but it's a subjective opinion. And what I try to tell myself now is, after I compete, after my form's over, my job's done. This is all external now. This is all on the judges. And I just try to, I try not to get nervous or anything when I see the results, because, it's out of my hands at this point. So, yeah, that was kind of a little long ramble, but, that's just kind of stuff that I've been thinking about a lot recently.
No, that's great stuff. And it resonates with me, because it's one thing that I've always thought about is how, like, you shouldn't base how good you think you did based off of how you place. You should base it off of what you actually think of the performance. Because that's one thing that my instructor always told me was that, like, nobody remembers who actually won a particular U.S. Open or a particular Diamond Nationals, but people remember the performances forever. Like, if I asked you, who won the Diamond Ring for men's weapons in 2005, nobody knows. But everybody remembers the moments, right? Everybody remembers, like, Kalman's sword form after his dad died. Everybody remembers the showdown between Kalman and Matt when Kalman was retiring with the blindfold and Matt threw down a dope chuck form that night, too. Like, people remember those moments that are created much more than they ever remember the wins and losses themselves. So the big thing is going out there and putting on a show and being proud of your performance, not as much caring, obviously wanting to win and having that drive, like you were saying, Danny, but really focusing on your personal improvement and how you think your forms are doing. And then if you continue to do that, eventually you'll get the results on the scorecards as well.
Exactly what you're saying. The results should be a byproduct of you putting in the work, staying consistent, and improving. But I think the best way to look at it, at least for the stage that we're at right now, maybe when you're a newcomer, it's okay to, try to look at your competition and say, okay, they're doing this, and if I want to beat them, maybe I should strategize by doing that. So that's totally fine because it's helping you grow. But at the level that we're at, now, it's all about how can we improve ourselves? How can we get better? Because we don't need another title.
We don't need another trophy.
We'd be done if it was just for a trophy or another title or another world champion. We'd be done. We'd be done. Yeah. So it's something much deeper and like much greater than that, actually. But that being said, you have to get to that point, and you can take little nuggets of that and apply it to yourself, and try to not be so attached to the results that you get. But there's an evolution of yourself that goes on and the reasons why you do things, and keeping that in your mind is such a good thing to have, so you can really see the growth of your skills and the growth of you as a person, and that stuff is going to last much longer than your competition career. It's going to help you in everything.
Aidan, anything to add?
I guess, well, definitely adding on to what you guys have been saying about results and stuff like that. You want to try to detach that as much as possible, and literally not because as you said, once you're done with your form, you're done with your form. You can't do anything about that. You can't do another trick afterwards and someone's going to change their score. That's just not going to happen. More times than not.
We like to think so.
That's why we try
to go out there for the scores and do a trick.
And, maybe we'll see if we can turn some judges' heads and that stuff. But more times than not, it doesn't happen. But you can detach yourself from those scores. But then you can also, I feel like you should use whatever results that you get to. If you lost, that motivates you to work harder. If you win, that motivates you to work harder because somebody else wants to beat you. If you won. If I won, somebody wants to beat me now. If I lost, I want to beat that person that beat me. That's just something that keeps your mentality to keep going, keep working. But
exactly. And the thing is, exactly what Aidan said is so right. And I don't want it to make it seem like you should detach yourself to the point where you don't care, because that's not the truth at all. You want to get fired up, but you should use those emotions as tools to get better rather than them actually determining your well-being. Use them as tools to get better, and it's all about hacking your brain pretty much. If you do good, use that, frame it in some way to get you to train harder. If you lose, use that somehow to frame it to train harder and get better. So yeah,
absolutely. That's one thing my dad would always tell me when I was training, even after I got good and after I was winning. He was always like, when you reach the top of the mountain, the target's still on your back.
100%.
Absolutely. And now
everybody wants that.
And especially since we're on Paul Mitchell now, people who get on Paul Mitchell, everybody wants to beat Paul Mitchell. That's just
you'll never be an underdog again once you're on Paul Mitchell.
Never, ever. You're always you're gonna have the biggest target on your back. If you win, you got a big target on your back, and it gets bigger every single time that you do well. But
what's weird about the Paul Mitchell effect is that, like, with certain crowds, you play the role of the hero, and with certain crowds, you play the role of the villain. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, there's sometimes that it's like, you get a whole bunch of, like, kids or whatever that have a lot of respect for, like, look at how good Paul Mitchell is. But then sometimes you get the crowds that are like, nah, we want the underdog. Like, screw the Paul Mitchell guys. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cool, honestly, getting to play both of those characters.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun to be the bad guy sometimes.
Because those two parties exist at every single tournament. Like, there's going to be people that you have your biggest fans there, and then there's going to be the people that despise you winning. Okay, maybe not you, but
that's it, kids. When you get to the top, people despise you.
They have your picture on a dartboard and they're throwing
right,
it
but that's what you want to think. That's what you want to think. You want to think that somebody's really training super, super hard to try and beat you, and they do have a target. They got your picture hanging up in their wall, in their house. Like, they got that stuff that if they lose, that they don't want that to happen again. That's like a mindset that you can go by. But yeah, definitely the Paul Mitchell effect is pretty funny to look at.
It's real.
It's super real.
Yeah, no, but there's no neutral feelings about us. It's either one or the other.
Yeah, we should patent that, the Paul Mitchell effect. Write a book about it.
Yeah, for real.
Anyway, so now we're gonna go off script a little bit again because we are sitting here at the Irish Open, so I want to make sure that we discuss it just a little bit.
So,
we're actually recording. This is gonna be posted after we've already competed, but we're recording this before we've even gone out there and competed. This is Saturday night. We compete on Sunday. I've been watching a lot of the talent today in some of the divisions in the 15 and under divisions for the forms and weapons. And one thing that I'll say, like, as a Paul Mitchell member, I feel so blessed to be a part of is the Paul Mitchell Experience seminars we've been doing in Ireland over the past several years, and it shows. Like, I've seen so much improvement in the forms and weapons. Like, we were watching a little girl today, Aidan, who did a body roll that I've never seen before with her bow.
Seen before.
Like, she rolled the bow like up her arm to the back of her neck, and then
as she was sitting down.
Yeah, exactly.
As she was
well, there was that. I'm talking about a different one.
Oh,
so there was one that did like a double neck roll while she was squatting down.
and while moving. She
Yeah.
continued to spin.
But then there was another one that like spun their bow up their arm and then like let it roll across their neck and down their chest to catch behind the back, almost like a Starry Night for my bow people. You know what that is. But basically just like a super complex body roll. Whereas a few years ago when we would come to Europe, and Danny, you can attest to this because you've been to multiple Irish Opens, you just didn't see that. You know what I mean? You saw a lot of, like, I've heard a lot of Americans describe it as if, like, the European competitors were in the 90s of NASCA. You know what I mean? But I think that has definitely changed. Absolutely. I think there's been so much progress. The WACO rules have improved to allow a little bit more creativity, more difficulty in the forms. And that's one thing that I've just been super impressed by. Anything that you guys noticed, either in teaching the seminar or watching some today, that you want to say about just the state of forms and weapons over here in Europe?
Well, this is my first time in Europe, so.
Hey, how about that, Aidan?
Overall, that's
first time
just
in Europe.
a great trip for me so far. But to go on with the Paul Mitchell experience, I just saw so many bow people do like crazier things than I've probably seen in the United States. Just because we started off, all the CMX stuff started in the United States, and when we came over here and started, teaching this stuff, or you guys started teaching it a little bit before I came over here and did it, but it's just so cool to see the transition of, basic martial arts and basic tricks and stuff like that to go into stuff you've never seen before in a form. Like, that's just crazy, and it's such a young age. Well, this is 15 and under today we were watching.
Exactly.
I stood up like 8 times just watching these kids do their releases and body rolls and stuff like that. It's just nuts to think about.
Yeah, you talk about tricks that we've never seen before. Like, literally. Like, there was a sword release today. Somebody they threw their sword up, did a spin, and then caught the sword behind their back. A 540 release with the sword.
Yep, I've never seen
anybody do that.
Nope.
Yeah. Crazy. Danny, anything that you wanted to say about that?
People are getting a lot better. Especially with tricks, too. People are getting super good with the tricks. And usually, there was always good European trickers, but it was very separate from the martial arts people. You wouldn't see those guys doing a form or anything.
You would have all those guys just like practice on tricking, and now you have people who practice tricking and martial arts, and that's why they do these forms and compete at the Irish Open. They do a great job here.
For sure.
Absolutely. So that does it for all the things that we plan to talk about today. We got to get some rest and get ready to go compete in our divisions tomorrow here at the Irish Open. Try to take home some European titles. Any last thoughts that either of you want to share before we wrap things up here?
Thanks for having us on the show,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. I hope this tops Ross's,
I hope Ross doesn't hear that. He might hit you up with that D side.
That's true. He would probably. But, I hope you guys learned something from us and enjoyed listening.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for having us. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate it. And maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for coming on. We really appreciate it as well. This is something that for my listeners, I'm going to start doing more of. I'd like to get to a point where like every other week we're doing another interview with somebody new. So drop some comments below. If you got more questions for Danny and Aidan, if you want to hear them talk about something else, drop that in the comments. Let me know. If you got somebody that you especially want to hear from, drop that in the comments. Let me know. If you like the podcast, make sure you share it too. Thank you guys all so much for your support. This is Jackson Rudolph, Aidan Considine, and Danny Etkin. Aidan acted like he was going to say something there, so I was going to let him go
you said
for
my
it.
name, so I just let it happen.
You want to say your own name?
Aidan Considine.
There we go.
Signing off. Thank you.
This has been episode 14 of the Jackson Rudolph podcast. I'll see you next time.